Repair status online. Ocala Mac and PC Repair is a family-owned and operated company that can do everything from mobile repair to wireless networks, fixing viruses, data recovery, even building and installing new systems. Visit online at ocalamacpc.com. In person, 1713 East Silver Springs Boulevard, or give them a call, 352-566-8324. That's 352-566-8324. Ocala Mac and PC Repair.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
All right, let's see, 21 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. If you think back to when you were a kid, Robin, when you were a young girl, I'm sure your parents had great influence on the decisions you decided not to make or decided to make, one way or the other.
They did.
There's no question in my mind that a lot of the bad stuff I could have gotten into, I didn't get into. Because I thought my father's going to kill me.
I know.
Or, you know what it was? My father's going to kill me. My mother's going to be so disappointed in me. You know, there was that part of it, too. There was that whole thing.
Yeah.
Either way, it worked, and I don't know. But that doesn't mean you're a bad parent if your child, does something wrong. I've often thought that, too. I mean, if I had done something wrong, it wouldn't have been their fault. It just would have meant that the temptation was too great. And there is no greater temptation for a young man than sex. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah,
that trumps the word Trump now is weird, isn't it? It trumps alcohol. It trumps everything.
Yeah,
right, for a young man. Anyway, I don't know about you ladies, but it is part of life, and the parenting that my parents did, and hopefully that I did for my son, because he seemed to just keep his nose clean too, as my dad would say. Ginny Ehrlich is on the phone. She's the CEO of the National Campaign to Prevent Teen and Unplanned Pregnancy, and she's got some new data to talk to us about regarding that. May, by the way, is National Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month. Good morning, Ginny. This is a tough one. Good morning, Ginny. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you both? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, how do you spread the message, and how do you measure your success?
Yes, I think it's very interesting because, as you were talking about, this is a tough one for many people. And we often think that the teens in our lives don't want to hear from us, right? It's kind of part of their rite of passage to tell us that. But the reality is that they do want to hear from us as adults. And our surveys show that teens themselves say that the adults in their lives, and in particular parents, play a huge role in their decision-making about sex and relationships. And so while we might not learn that from them until they're about 30, we have to kind of stay the course and do the tough work, I think, and really, share with young people what's important to us as their family, as their, what values are important to us, and make sure that they have access to quality and accurate information so that whatever decision they make, they can do so in an informed way.
Do you know, I'm wondering if the data indicates a change because of technology and because of the information age. For example, it seems like we're less prude now than we used to be, but does that mean we're less promiscuous, or are we just as promiscuous as we've always been?
I think that, I think the conversation, at least the information is out there, and young people, I think that's also a challenge for us adults. We think, wow, we're not experts in this area, so how much do we need to really know in order to be the right person to talk with? And I think young people really want the surround sound from us. Like, what do we think is important from a value perspective? What do we think is important from from a life course perspective? Do they matter? Do they have a future? Does this matter to them? And what should they expect from relationships? And then, to your point, the technical information about this is available on the internet, so it's a matter of making sure that they're going to sources that are actually, accurate and appropriate for their information. Your second question, I can tell you that in Florida, 40% of high school students have reported that they've had sex. So almost half. 9th through 12th, and by the time you get to 12th grade, it's 57%. So you still got a good number of young people who are having sex. You have a good number of young people who are delaying sex and waiting till later in life.
And there's the psychological perspective also. Sometimes the fellas or the women try to use that manipulative approach, like, if you love me, we will do this, or you're the only one for me, and that still goes on too. And I think students today now have more courage than they did years ago, and they can kind of see through that.
We hope so. We hope that's true, because I think that that's where we can really play a role to really talk about what a healthy relationship looks like, and and to really instill that sense of ownership and power for young people over their own decisions and bodies, because it is important to kind of debunk those myths and really prepare young people even before they're in relationships to really stand strong.
If we were sending our kids out to a party and we said, look, when you get there, don't drink, but if you do, here's money for a cab. It's almost like telling them, don't, but if you do. And it's the same thing with regarding sex. I want you to be abstinent, but just in case, here's a condom. Is it contrary to do that? I mean, do we send mixed messages when we do stuff like that?
So I think the research on this is pretty strong and long-standing, and what it shows is that talking about sex, talking about contraception, talking about condoms does not hasten kids to have sex. So the reality is that actually the more we've been talking about it over the years, as we've been doing over the past few years, actually fewer teens are having sex than they did before. So information doesn't equal encouragement.
There's a lot of really good campaigns that I happen to stumble upon. I'll just be online and there'll be a message for a kid, really. Like saying, look, just like Robin was pointing out. Robin was trying to be fair and saying it was the girls also, but I think the guys do that pressure thing. I don't know, just my thing. I don't know if I'm right or not, but.
And there are the role models too, and I'm not talking about the role models in Hollywood, because to me that just doesn't fly. It's the role models in the community. It's your folks. It's the friends of your folks. I mean, if teenagers see women out there that are married and divorced multiple times, they have a child from each of the fellas that they're with. I mean, that's not being a very good role model. So I think the parents have that huge responsibility.
I think that's right. I think that there's definitely, young people are watching us as adults, and they watch what we do. And again, they're not telling us that we're influencing them, but the reality is that when they secretly fill out a survey, they tell us that we're important to them. And so sometimes I think we underestimate our influence over teens as a result, but the reality is that they're watching us, and they're watching sometimes their families, and if they're lucky to have really strong families and parent relationships, that's great. But others in the community, teachers, those who work in Y's and Boys and Girls Clubs and other kind of youth facilities, coaches, aunties, friends, parents' friends make a big difference as well.
So let's leave our listeners with the information so they can look at the data that you are telling us about, introducing us to. Is it a website we go to?
Yes, if you go to www.thenationalcampaign.org, we have a number of tips for parents on how to and other adults on how to start these conversations with young people, as well as the data on why it's so important. We also have a website for young people themselves called stayteen.org, which provides information, peer-to-peer information about healthy relationships and sexual health.
All right, good stuff. We'll make sure we put this interview on Facebook as a podcast and on YouTube, and Robert will put the links that you just told us as well. Ginny, Ehrlich, thank you so much for being on the air with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, good stuff. We will take a little break. We'll be right back.
This is a test to find out if you know it all.
You know how frogs are so hoppy? It's because they don't smoke or have COPD, otherwise they would be flip-floppy. If you want to quit smoking to prevent yourself from croaking, come to A Better You for a good acupuncture poking. Call me, Dr. Erica Olstein, with A Better You Healthcare to stop smoking today at 352-615-5566. 352-615-5566.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Sun will mix with clouds and we'll have a thunderstorm in the afternoon, but there'll be multiple near the coast. High